Well, good morning from Shay Robinette. It is AMI Day 3. You should be on Module 3, Lesson 11 today. Let me make sure. Yep, and I'm on the right lesson today. Today's lesson is really no different from yesterday's lesson, except today you're subtracting. Okay, the fractions can't be rearranged. As you know, with anything else in subtraction, if you flip the numbers around, it's not commutative like it is in addition. So when you see on A 1/2 minus 1/5, you're going to want to keep those fractions in the order that you see them in. Okay, so now, like yesterday, I believe our first problem was very similar to this, but we did an addition fact. What we're going to do today, just like yesterday, we're going to take our 2 and our 5 and we're going to come up with a common denominator. Again, there are two ways to do that. You can either multiply your denominators together and get the new denominator, or you can skip count by 2's and 5's to get that. So I'm going to write down 10 because just like yesterday, that was our common denominator. Now remember, we're going to complete the multiplication fact that got us to 10, just to refresh your memory. Okay, we are going to end up doing the same thing to our numerator that we did our denominator. If we want these to be equal, if we want them to be equivalent, then we have to do the same thing on top and bottom. Okay, so in our first fraction, 1/2, I'm going to multiply the numerator also by 5. In the bottom, I'm going to multiply my numerator by 2 because that's what I did in my denominator. Okay? So here we have our new equivalent fractions. They look different, but they mean the same thing as our original fraction. And this time we're going to subtract instead of add. So when you look at this, we're going to have 5/10 minus 2/10, and that's going to give us 3/10. Okay? Last thing we want to check before we're done is we're going to look at our final fraction here, and we are going to decide if we need to simplify. 3 is a prime number. The only multiplication facts for 3 are 1 and 3. So the only way that this could simplify, guys, is if I could skip count by 3's and land on 10. And we know that that's not going to happen. 3's cannot skip count and land on 10. 9 is the closest it could get. All right? When you look at the rest of these problems, they go all the way through G, and then we get a mixed number. So I'm going to work one of those for you real quick. On G, it says 15 and 7/8 minus 5 and 3/4. Okay? This is one of these questions, a lot of times, my friends at school, they're going to want to multiply the denominators together. Well, if that happens, you're going to get 32, which is great. You can do that. I don't have a problem with it. But we all know that there is something smaller that these two numbers have in common, okay? We can see that 4 can skip count to 8, okay? If we don't have to use the big denominator, we don't want to, because that means that gives us extra work at the end, and we would just rather not do that, okay? So all I'm going to do is I'm going to scoot this fraction over, and I'm going to keep it 7/8, and then I'm going to put an 8 down here in my denominator, okay? Let me just scoot that over, because we know that we can use 8 as our denominator. Down here, we're going to have to do 4 times 2 and 3 times 2, and then that's going to give us 6, okay? This is perfect. We have a bigger numerator than we do down here. So this is going to subtract just perfectly, okay? So 7 minus 6 is going to be 1/8, but don't forget about your whole numbers. That's the other thing. When you get in a rush and you do all this math, sometimes you forget those. We discussed that yesterday, okay? So our final answer is going to be 10 and 1/8. All right? There are a few word problems down below. Look for your clue words. It says how much more did they eat than the other one. How many more is usually your subtraction phrase. Down here, again, how much more in number 3. The number 4, it says what fraction of the book did he read on Wednesday? So they're wanting to know a total, and then you're going to subtract your whole number, and you're going to subtract these other 2 pieces. Shouldn't be hard after the last 2 days' lessons. Just give me a shout out on Facebook or on Remind if you have any trouble, and I'll do what I can to help you. Have a great day.